Respawn times are something that we all come across in various types of games, and they can make the game you're playing more enjoyable or more mundane. The dev discussion this month for Ashes of Creation focuses on that and our thoughts. Question 1. How predictable do you like the spawn rate for general and rare mobs in open world, dungeons, and raid settings? Let's hit each of these questions one by one. The spawn rate for general mobs should be a decent amount of time. These are mobs that we're probably killing early on in the game for experience, kill X amount of this mob quest, and kill these types of mobs for this drop. I think having the respawn timer for these types of mobs be too short will allow most people to fly by and bypass the world that we're in. We see that now in a lot of games because everyone just likes to hurry up to get what they need so they can move on to the next task. I don't think that's good, but I also don't think it's good to have your player base waiting around for too long for basic mobs. When we look at rare mobs as in slightly above the general mobs, I think that it makes sense that those mobs take longer to spawn. They're harder to find and harder to defeat because there is a bigger purpose behind them. Since general and rare mobs are usually found in the same place, I'd say double or triple the time for a rare spawn compared to a general. So if your general mob takes 1 minute to spawn, maybe make that slightly more rare take 2 or 3. This way we're still engaged in fighting while we're waiting for that rare spawn to pop up. Now, if we're talking about rare mobs like 2-Mob, then I think those are in a whole nother category by themselves. And they could take up to a few hours, right? Because there's a point behind them. Gotta remember, crafting is held in such a high regard in Ashes of Creation, so a lot of these mobs are gonna have things that we need. Making them harder to get to in difficulty and time makes sense to me. When it comes to dungeons and raiding, I think that the stakes need to be a little higher. When it comes to the open world with general and rare mobs, I don't want to say we don't face any threat, at least in most games today, but that's what it feels like sometimes. I'd personally like to see more threat when doing dungeon content. So if the mobs are tough to take down for the preferred level, then the respawn timer doesn't necessarily have to be as quick as it is in the open world because the challenge isn't in the quantity, it'd be in the quality of mobs that there are. Now, of course, if you're taking hours to do a 30-minute dungeon, then those mobs would need to spawn back to continue that challenge. But I'd probably double it compared to our rare mobs, but again, this is only if that challenge is present. I would say the same applies here for raids because this is the most challenging content that there is. I know Intrepid is set in their risk versus reward ways, and I'm 100% for that, but I don't think we need to be overrun while we're already trying to do challenging content. I don't think that would make for a good experience, and I think it 100% push more people away. I'm not saying I'd be backing down from that type of experience, but that's exactly what it'd be, a crazy experience. So to wrap it all up, general mobs have the quickest respawn, followed by the rare spawns, and this makes sense here because this is where we're all questing and leveling in the world. Dungeons and raids are more lenient on the respawner since the content within the activity is already meant to be challenging, but that doesn't mean you're taking as much time as possible to complete said activity. The next question is, what games do you feel have done this well? And what did you like about the respawn times? I really do think Classic World of Warcraft has done this really well. The general and rare mobs roam the world, and as you kill them, getting experience and quest items and completing the task, you move throughout the world, which is something I really do appreciate. You can kill everything you need to, and once you do that, you need to move to the next section within the area to continue to finish your quest. Now, mob drops are a whole nother conversation, but I really do think that they have got it down for the most part. I also think that New World is another game that does this pretty well. Even looking at the town board quests that require you to go out and kill X amount of something. The turkeys, wolves, rabbits, etc. are around in a pretty good chunk. I really think though that a slight effect can turn this question upside down, and that effect would be, what should respawn timers be on a day one for a brand new MMO? Because now, even though we're only waiting a few minutes, everyone killing everything and being on the same quest is only going to make your process much longer. I don't think that games should change for day one at all, but it's a slight observation. I do believe games like Destiny have got this down in terms of their dungeons and raids. Again, since the activity laid before us is the challenge, there isn't much respawning going on. I really appreciate that. Imagine doing a super hard raid for the first time and finally getting past the first boss, only to be met with a ton of smaller beefy adds right after because of the timer. When you don't overflow with extra mobs in these activities, I also believe it makes the activity feel much more rewardable, like a, we finally got it.
I finally rest. watch the sunrise on a grateful universe.
I personally like respawn timers that are matching the mob that I'm going after or reward, however you want to dice it up, right? So if I'm looking for an item that a mob has, am I waiting 10 minutes? Am I waiting a few hours, a day? What is it, right? I'm not saying you have to respect my time because that's sort of a casual take, but don't disrespect my time either because I'm willing to grind, but don't keep me here longer than I need to be here. I think most people are up for the crazy grind that Ashes of Creation is gonna bring, but at the same time, I don't think most of us want to be like, hey, you know, we've been grinding here for a few hundred hours, right? Because I think that's just kind of a little ridiculous. I'm really hoping during the Alpha 2, this is one of the things that we can play with because a system like this that's not done correctly can push a fan base away because it's just not fun. Now I'm all for being hardcore, but no one wants to be hardcore as soon as they sign on to the game and have to fight for their life. If this is done right, it'll make the world much more enjoyable. We've all been in situations where respawn timers are pretty bad, right? So I'm not the only one hoping Intrepid is gonna get it right, but I do think this is a system that's gonna take a lot more testing than some others. What are your thoughts on respawn timers? Please let your boy know in the comment section below. Also, I will leave the forum link in the description, just in case you wanna head over there directly and let Intrepid know your thoughts. So if you haven't been keeping up in the MMO space, BlizzCon, they kind of teed off, man. They kind of teed off. People feel the way they feel about retail, that's fine. People feel the way they feel about kata, that's absolutely fine. But Season of Discovery might be pretty good, right? It's looking like it's the answer to Classic Plus. So what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna be re-rolling yet again, right, on a fresh server, and I'm gonna be making a guild. For those that wanna play it, come back to WoW, whatever it may. Look at this as the coming together for our Guild and Ashes of Creation, right? We're getting started. I'll have more information in the coming days, weeks, whatever, but it starts November 30th, and the best way to keep up is the Discord. Hop on in here, man. Come kick it with us. If you haven't created an Ashes of Creation account yet, feel free to use my link in the description, all right? If you want to stay up to date with me, man, feel free to follow me on Twitter and Twitch, where I stream the live monthly updates. I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.